Welcome students to my channel Keeping Up with Studies. In today's video, we are going to talk about Partition of India in 1947. The process, what led to the partition, and what were the consequences. So before moving on with the video, I would want you all to see this video as a story because then it will be much more easier for you to recall it and jot it down in your answer sheets. India became an independent nation on 15th August 1947. This was possible only because Indians felt that they want to be the masters of their own land and want to send these Britishers away to where they belong. However, easier said than done. It was not easy for Indians to raise their voice against Britishers who had been ruling them for more than 200 years. People in India had to undergo a lot of sufferings and hardships to gain what they wanted. And finally, the fruit of all their hard work was what the entire nation was waiting for. That is, their freedom. However, while we were celebrating our victory, in the other hand, we were also witnessing our greatest fear, and that was the partition of India. The question arises, what led to partition? Why did people who've lived together for so many years wanted to have separate territories? And these are the questions on which we are going to focus. Two groups in the forefront of these nationalist movements in the years leading up to independence was the Muslim League and the Indian National Congress. Muhammad Ali Jinnah of the Muslim League proposed a two-nation theory. And according to this theory, India consisted of not one but two types of people, the Hindus and the Muslims. And according to this theory, Hindus and Muslims could not live together in harmony because Hindus, being a majority, would suppress the Muslims, a minority, and thus they demanded for a separate country, Pakistan, where Muslims would live. The two-nation theory is considered as one of the biggest reasons for the partition of the country. However, besides that, the political conflicts and differences between the Muslim League and the Indian National Congress regarding leadership and ideologies that divided rule by Britishers, the Hindus being a majority, were other problems besides the two-nation theory. There were many protests and there were several conflicts within the leadership. The conclusion of all these differences was that in 1947, not one but two independent nations came into existence, India and Pakistan. It was decided to follow the principle of religious majority. This basically means that areas where the Muslims were in majority would make up the territory of Pakistan. The rest was to stay with India. Now, this idea might appear pretty simple, but it presented with a lot of difficulties. First of all, not all Muslim majorities wanted to be in Pakistan. And the possible reason for this could be their emotional attachment with the place in which they were born, brought up, and had lived their entire life. And just because they were Muslims or they were Hindus, they did not want to go to the other side of the border. Secondly, there was no single belt of Muslim majority areas in British India. There were two areas of concentration, one in the west and one in the east, and there was no way these two parts would be joined. So, it was decided that the new country, Pakistan, would comprise of two territories, the West Pakistan and the East Pakistan, separated by a long territory of India. However, few years later, East Pakistan did get separated from West Pakistan because of political controversies in these countries, about which I will be discussing about in my next video. Now, the third problem was that of Punjab and Bengal. Here, two of the Muslim majority provinces of British India, that is Punjab and Bengal, had very large areas where the non-Muslims were in majority. Eventually, it was decided that the two provinces would be bifurcated according to religious majority at the district or even the lower levels. However, this decision could not be made by the midnight of 14th or 15th August, and thus on the day of independence, many people did not know on which side of the border they were, what were the decisions, where should they go. They were found to be aliens in their own lands where they had lived together for so many years. The partition of Bengal and Punjab caused the deepest trauma of partition. Now the fourth and the toughest problems to deal with of the partition were the minorities on both the sides of the border. Lakhs of Hindus and Sikhs in the areas that were now in Pakistan, and an equally large number of Muslims on the Indian side of Punjab and Bengal, found themselves trapped. They were undesirable in their own land, where they and their ancestors had lived for centuries. No one had any plans, no one had quite anticipated the scale of these problems, and thus there was no refuge for these people. For many refugees, the country's freedom meant life in refugee camps for months and sometimes even for years. The partition was not merely a division of properties, liabilities, or a political division of the country. But what got divided were things like tables, chairs, typewriters, paper clips, musical instruments, etc. It was a violent separation of communities who had lived together as neighbors. It is estimated that the partition forced about 80 lakh people to migrate across the new border. Between 5 to 10 lakh people were killed in partition-related violence. The survivors of partition call it not as the political division of a country, but as the division of hearts. However, dividing the country into India and Pakistan was not the end to everything. Apart from Muslims, India had an equally large number of other religious communities like Christians, Jains, Sikhs, etc. as minorities. And therefore, we decided that all citizens would be equal irrespective of their religious affiliations. Being religious or a believer would not be a test of citizenship. They cherished, therefore, the ideal of a secular nation. This ideal was enshrined in the Indian Constitution. Okay then, that's all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, also, if you have any doubts regarding this topic, don't forget to put them down in the comment section. I'll make sure that I answer all your questions. Thank you for watching.